If you've been following my channel and you've been keeping up with the past few videos, you would have known that there have been just a handful of casualties. In fact, last year it was a lot worse. This year, not so bad. You know, some were expected, some I'm going to miss more than others, but anyway, this is where we are. But in today's video, I'm going to show you 6 plants that are doing really, really well. So what I'm looking out for are plants with new growth. During the winter, your plants tend to sort of take a little bit of a break. They tend to really slow down their new growth. However, we have got a couple. I might throw in one additional bonus plant or plants that are doing really, really well. So make sure you stay tuned to the end to see exactly what plant that is. So very first off the bat, I'm going to show you a couple of plants that are actually starting to flower for me. And the first one are my Anthuriums. This baby over here is my infamous Antherium magnificum cross with Regal. This is one of the older leaves over here. This was damaged when it was coming through. I think is when I changed the pot out, and then during that, this plant suffered quite a lot. This is a really old leaf that's starting to now yellow. This one is still going on very, very strong, looking amazing. This is one of the newer leaves with a little bit of light damage here. These lights get extremely hot. They are really good. Check out the link in the description for where you can purchase these lights, but they are really good, but they do get quite warm, so you want to keep them away from your leaves. Now, the reason why this plant is starting to yellow is because if I bring you on in here, take a look at that. We have an inflorescence in the making. I almost discovered this by accident when I was just sort of checking through my plants, and then I saw this and I was like, oh wow, look at that, we've got some new growth. So usually what I find with these Anthuriums is when they start to produce new growth like this, then yeah, it starts to slow down on everything else. So it tends to lose a couple of leaves as well. So that was all to be expected. Sticking on the Anthurium train, this is right here, if I can get this Hoya Crinkle 8 out of the way. This is my amazing, look at that, this is my King Antherium, my Antherium Veitchii, just looking so royal over here. Let me show you a couple more leaves. I have to show you these leaves. I have to show off this plant. Look at this one over here, just hiding in the back, looking amazing. It was just today that when I stuck my head in here, I actually noticed that we have what appears to be a new leaf. Now, I'm not going to hold my breath on this because I find, in my experience anyway, that the King Antherium, they tend to show signs of new leaves just like this, but it takes forever for it to actually produce a new leaf. I had one maybe sitting here for maybe a couple of months, it had to be, before these leaves actually emerged. They did, and I couldn't be any happier, but it did take a while to get there. Again, staying with the Anthuriums, if I take you right into the back over here, this is my Antherium Forgetii. This is a trooper. This plant has produced so many babies over the past few years, and it will be doing the same again. Let me get rid of this vine out of your way, but check this out. We've got 2 inflorescence in the making. You've got this one just over here and another one over there. So that's 3 Anthuriums that are really doing some work. So I'm really excited for the summer to see how much growth we can get out of these plants. I showed this plant recently in one of my videos. This is my Philodendron Silver Sword. And I think it's worth showing it again because when I did the video for this, I think I was showing some really hardy plants. I think that was the title of the video. So I showed this plant because it was a super fast grower, and it's just a trooper. It does well in sort of supplementary light. It just sort of survives off of the light from this grow tent, and you can see it's not terribly bright, but this plant just continues to grow. It continues to push out new growth. So because of that, I thought I'd put this plant on my list of really easy plants to care for, really tough, hardy plants. And in the making of the video, when I was actually editing it, I noticed that it was actually putting out an inflorescence of its own. So I thought I would show it again in case you missed that video. This plant, not only is it fast growing and really sturdy, really hardy, really resilient to spider mites. When spider mites were knocking down my gloriosum and my McDowell, is it a McDowell? I don't think it is a McDowell. But anyway, it was knocking out my other philodendrons. This one just beat it all. It beat the odds. At first, I actually thought this thing was a leaf, but on closer inspection, I noticed that it's actually coming out of the petiole itself, which is the telltale signs of a philodendron inflorescence. And then over here, which sort of where the vine continues, you can see that this will be a new leaf. So I imagine it's going to be nicely sized, a nice mature leaf as well. But given the fact that, well, that's what I'm hoping for, but given the fact that we have an inflorescence, it might actually just take some of the energy away, but we'll leave it and we'll see what happens. So moving on from the tropical Antherium and philodendron, let's talk about some succulents that I think that are doing really well at the moment. The first one I'm going to introduce you to, and I don't have the full name, I will try to find it and include it on the screen if I can, is this euphorbia over here. I believe it's a euphorbia anyway, but this is one of those ones that has the spiky stem. You can see that looks amazing. How incredible. These two, they lost all of their leaves, and the reason why I'm showing this one is because the leaves are starting to come back in, and they're coming back in with quite some vigor. Like, they're growing quite quickly, so I'm quite surprised about that. But then we've had this one, which throughout the entire winter, complete trooper. It's in the same pot, they're in the same location, quite close to a west-facing window, so maybe some cold drafts. But this one, where the other ones, which granted a little bit smaller, lost their leaves, this one just kept on growing and actually never lost its flowers. There were a couple more in here that sort of dried off and fall off, but this one is still fresh. It's a kind of a new one, and it's looking really amazing. Can you imagine when this thing is all grown up and it fills this pot up? It's going to look incredible. And in the same way, this Sansevieria is one I got in the another plant swap trade. Sansevieria is not a plant that I would say I was particularly drawn to, but now that I have it, I really do start to admire it. Of course, this is a smaller variety. There are some that grow a lot bigger. I've seen a few that I really like the look of. So I was looking at this one today. I was just like, oh, let me just see what's going on. And then I turned it around and I saw that it not only had one, but two new offshoots. Can you see that little baby one over there? Oh my goodness, how incredible is that? I'm so excited to see that this thing is growing. And again, it's growing during the winter months. So that's really good news. We do have some bottom leaves over here that are starting to fall off and dry off, but on a whole, the whole plant itself is looking really good and really healthy. So super chuffed about that. The last succulent I'm going to show you is this one right here. I've got the name written over here, but I am not even going to attempt to pronounce that. All right, I'll put it on the screen. You'll be able to see it for yourself. But this thing, oh my days, this thing is... It's unstoppable. When I got this plant, I think I got like a couple of strands, maybe one or two tiny strands. And look at it now, it just keeps on growing and growing. And I've got this little mesh thing near the window that I'm growing this plant next to. And it keeps finding a way to grow into the mesh and then continuing on the other side. So it means that the plant gets stuck, almost gets stuck to the window. So I have to sort of break it off. And then what I do with the piece that I break off, I then replant it in here, which means, and to be fair, I think I've had 100% success rate with this because it just keeps on growing. Like, it's such an easy plant to grow. So yeah, this one, I can't wait until it gets really bushy. I think I might find a spot for it in here so it can just sort of cascade and really just add to the ambience of this space. So I'm really looking forward to that. Watch this space. Check this out. This is my Monstera deliciosa. Look at the size of this thing. It's taller than me. It's just, again, it's another unstoppable plant, unstoppable grower. Although it's growing quite far away from an east-facing window, looking at about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 to 5 meters away from an east-facing window. So that means this plant is living in really low light, but that seems to not be a problem with this plant. Let me bring you in for a closer look so you can see just how many new leaves this plant is producing. So let's start from the top and have a look at that. We have one new leaf here, which is yet to unfurl. I'm not gonna play with it too much. And then if I work my way down, so this is the biggest stem. This is, I wouldn't say this is the new leaf. This has been here for a little while. This is the newest leaf on the second biggest stem, which is just here. And you can see that is looking amazing. And if we work our way down to the bottom, we have some other growth growing out of some of the smaller, more juvenile stems as well. So the fact that this thing continues to grow despite the lower or less than optimum light quality is a real testament just to how sturdy and how easy the Monstera deliciosa is to care for. And this is the reason why it is and continues to be a staple in the houseplant collecting hobby. Now, I promised you that if you stay till the end, that I will show you a plant or a couple of plants that are doing really, really well. And I'm going to stay true to that promise. Let me show you some Anthurium babies that are doing incredible. Absolutely incredible. Check out these babies. Now, do you recall when I made a video where I repotted a whole bunch of Anthurium seedlings into pond? These are them now. These are those exact babies, and they are growing really, really well. I couldn't be happier with the quality of growth on these plants. Now, what I really do enjoy with these babies are it's the color that the leaves come in. Like, it came out really red, and I was really surprised as to where this plant got this property from. But I recall that I think these plants, it's actually a hybrid between the Madrag, the Magnificum cross Regal, and the Forgetii. So what I think is happening is that Regal, that coloring is really coming in the new growth. And if you've seen a Regal, when the leaves first come in, they're super bright red, like a ruby. I hesitate to call these seedlings because some of the leaves on these things are actually quite large and they're looking really, really healthy. So really, really glad to see how these plants are coming along. They look really robust, and I can't wait to sort of start sharing these with people. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this makes me happy. Look at that, just the forest of Anthurium babies. How incredible. So there you have it, a quick look at some of the plants that are doing really, really well at the moment, especially given the fact that we're still in winter. We're about to exit, but we're still very much in winter. So these plants are doing really, really well. And I just love going in, exploring, seeing what's new, what's happening with my plants, getting a bit involved in there. And I hope you enjoyed that also. But anyway, that's it from me and from these plant babies. And as always, keep planting.